I've torn through my room 3 times now, but it's still not there. The folder where I kept all my documents, the passport, the acceptance letter, my travel confirmations, it's exactly where I left it except for the one thing that matters most. I sit back on the edge of my bed, heart pounding, trying to breathe through the rising panic pressing against my ribs. The flight to Paris is less than 48 hours away, and without that passport, I'm not going anywhere. I'm Delaney Brooks, 21 years old, and until 5 minutes ago, I thought I was finally getting out. I've lived in the same colonial house on the edge of the Boston suburbs since I was 4. From the outside, it's the kind of place realtors describe as charming and family-centered. Inside, though, it's a space built for one daughter to shine and the other to stay out of the way. My younger sister Kelsey is the one who's always belonged here. She fits perfectly under this roof in the photo frames on the stairway wall and in every praise-filled story my mother tells at church potlucks. The passport was in that folder last night. I know it was. I double-checked it before placing it under the stack of reference letters and the official invitation from the Dufort Global Fellowship, a year-long policy training program in Paris with only 50 students selected across the entire country. I was one of them. I had held the secret tight for 3 months because I knew what would happen if they found out. Somehow, they still found a way to stop me. There's a knock on my door, 3 soft taps like a performance rehearsed for years. I don't need to ask who it is. Kelsey always knocks like that. "You okay in there?" she asks. Her voice is syrupy sweet in the way only someone who's mastered sounding innocent can manage. "I'm fine," I reply, still sifting through the drawer beneath my desk for the 3rd time. "Just misplaced something." She steps into the doorway without waiting for an invitation. Her golden hair is curled just enough to look effortless. She wears the same beige sweater she wore last Sunday to the youth leadership brunch. "You seem stressed," she says casually, leaning against the frame. "Maybe this is a sign from God. Not everyone's meant for that kind of life, you know." My hands freeze. That kind of life. She's seen the letter. She knows. I look up and our eyes meet. Hers are calm, watchful, already rehearsing how she'll spin this later. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise, she adds with a soft shrug. I don't answer. I just press my lips together and return to rifling through the papers, even though I know there's no point. I've been down this road before. Senior year, the night before the state science competition, my presentation files disappeared from my laptop. Somehow, the hard drive had been wiped. Kelsey said she hadn't touched it. A month later, the prom dress I ordered arrived in a size 4 toddler. My mom laughed and said I needed to double-check my orders. Kelsey had offered to help me track it, and now the passport. "You don't look so good," Kelsey says, stepping deeper into the room. "You get scatterbrained when you're nervous. Remember when you lost your scholarship essay for 2 days and it turned up in the recycling bin?" I remember, I say, my voice flat. What I don't say is that I never put it in the recycling bin. She walks over to my desk and picks up the invitation to the fellowship still untouched. "This is impressive," she says lightly, running her fingers across the embossed seal. "Big trip. All alone in Europe. That's a lot of pressure, Delaney. What if it doesn't work out?" It will, I say, quieter than I mean to. I glance up just in time to see the corners of her mouth twitch a smile she doesn't try to hide. There's a sound from downstairs, my mother calling. "Delaney, your father wants to speak with you. Now please." I take a breath and stand trying to keep my steps steady as I head to the stairs. Behind me, Kelsey hums under her breath and lets the envelope fall back on my desk. The living room smells like overcooked garlic bread. My father is sitting in his recliner, arms crossed. My mother, in her usual cardigan and silver cross necklace, gestures to the couch like I'm about to be interviewed. The air is warm and cloying, too familiar. "Sweetheart," she says, folding her hands, "we need to talk about this Paris thing." "I got in," I reply simply. "I've accepted the offer." My father leans forward. "This could be a mistake, Delaney. These kinds of decisions, they need time. You're impulsive sometimes." I clench my jaw. I've thought about this for months. I applied on my own. I earned this. My mother's voice takes on that tone she uses with guests, the soft, empathetic one. "We're not against your dreams. We're just concerned. Paris is far, and there are no familiar faces. Kelsey's making a real difference here with her community work. Maybe your place is here too." Behind me, Kelsey sniffs softly. I just want you to be happy, Dell, but you always make everything into a fight. My mother pulls her into an embrace, eyes narrowing at me over Kelsey's shoulder. You're hurting her again. Why can't you think of the bigger picture? I feel like I'm watching a play one I've seen performed too many times. I don't even argue. I just nod slowly and look toward the window. The backyard is still bright with sunset, but the house feels like it's closing in. We prayed about it, my mom adds gently. And maybe you should too. Sometimes closed doors are God's way of protecting us. Something clicks in my chest, not loudly, just a final notch in a door I won't walk through again. I smile faintly, not at her, but at the realization that I've already left in every way that matters. You're right, I say. Maybe I should pray on it. She nods, satisfied. I turn and head back upstairs past the framed photos that don't include me. In my room, I pull the backpack from the back of the closet and unzip the secret lining. The backup passport is there. I run my fingers over the edge of the booklet, then tape a strip of black electrical tape over the red light of the bedroom security camera. Later that night, I draft a fake email on my screen and leave it open just in case anyone decides to look. I regret to inform you I must withdraw from the fellowship due to unforeseen circumstances. Then I prop my door open slightly and sit in silence waiting. Kelsey walks by just after midnight. I don't turn around, but I hear her stop, breathe, and keep moving. I don't need to confront them. I already know how this story ends. I just have to decide where mine begins. I used to think silence was strength, that if I stayed quiet, followed the rules, and never made waves, someone would eventually notice the effort. But all that really happened was I became easy to forget. The silence didn't protect me, it erased me. Growing up in the Brooks household, there wasn't room for more than one spotlight. Kelsey had it before she could walk. Her first word was on video. Her first tooth earned a family brunch. I learned to read by age 4, but no one took a picture. At 6, I memorized the state capitals just for fun. My dad told me not to show off in front of the neighbors. The clearest moment came when I was 9. Our school held a science fair, and I built a small working model of a wind turbine out of household parts and foam. I stayed up late researching energy transfer and scribbling diagrams in the margins of my notebooks. When I won first place, I rushed home with the medal pinned to my jacket. My mom was in the kitchen with Kelsey, who had just gotten a ribbon for Best Frosting Swirl in the bake sale. Before I could speak, she pointed to the cookie tray. "Look at this presentation," she said, smiling. "Our little Martha Stewart." I stood there with the medal still clipped to my collar. No one asked what my project had been about. That night, Kelsey's ribbon went up on the fridge. Mine disappeared into the junk drawer beside the microwave. It wasn't just about who got more praise. It was who was allowed to need things. If I cried after a long day, I was told I was being dramatic. If Kelsey pouted because her dance class was tiring, she got to skip school the next day and go to the spa with Mom. I once had a fever and still had to finish my math workbook before I could rest. Kelsey had a cough and was excused from chores for a week. By middle school, I'd learned the pattern. Kelsey was charming, sociable, and just fragile enough to inspire concern. I was practical-driven and therefore expected to self-regulate. I became the daughter who handled her own appointments, who packed her own lunches, who understood when Christmas gifts were smaller because we had to spend more on Kelsey's uniform fittings. My parents never called it favoritism. They called it balance. I was the strong one. But being strong didn't mean I didn't notice. I just learned not to say anything. In 10th grade, I spent 6 weeks developing an independent research paper on refugee rights and international legal loopholes. I coordinated interviews, cited over 30 sources, and worked with the local library staff to access archives. The night before it was due, I left my annotated draft and flash drive on the dining table so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. The next day, both were gone. My mother said she hadn't seen them. My father said I should have been more careful. Kelsey shrugged. Maybe it got thrown out by mistake. I turned in a backup version from 2 weeks earlier. It didn't have the charts and it wasn't complete. I got a B+. My teacher said it lacked the clarity of my usual work. I never told her why. That was the moment I stopped leaving anything important in the open. I started backing up everything 3 ways on a hard drive I kept hidden on a password-protected cloud folder and in printouts stashed inside the lining of my old camping backpack. the same backpack from when I was 15, and we went on a family trip to the White Mountains. Kelsey refused to hike because of the mud, so my dad and I went ahead while Mom stayed behind with her. When we returned, Kelsey had posted pictures of herself outdoors using old vacation shots. Everyone in the extended family sent her messages of how adventurous she was. Not one person asked if I'd reached the summit. I did. I still have the map folded in quarters and tucked behind the zipper lining of that same green bag. No one ever asked to see it. When it came time for college applications, Kelsey announced her intention to take a gap year to explore wellness coaching. The house erupted in excitement. Good for her, my dad said. She's taking charge of her path. I sat at the kitchen table filling out applications by hand because our printer had run out of ink and no one had noticed. I wrote essays at night when everyone was asleep because during the day Kelsey needed quiet for her meditation practice. I was accepted into 3 top schools. My parents said they were proud but reminded me that tuition help would be limited. "You're so resourceful," Delaney Mom said. "I'm sure you'll figure something out." Kelsey got a gift card to a wellness retreat for her birthday. I got a monogrammed folder to keep my loan paperwork organized. That folder still sits in my desk drawer underneath a stack of old school medals and photocopied transcripts. None of it is framed. None of it was ever put on display. My mother kept a photo album on the bookshelf in the hallway. Kelsey's dance recitals, her charity events, church lock-ins, even a blurry picture of her lighting a birthday candle with her eyes closed. There is only one photo of me, a group shot at a holiday service. I'm in the background, partly cut off. I don't look at the album anymore. I don't need to. It taught me more clearly than anything else that being present is not the same as being included. The quietest part of all of it is how much of myself I've had to hide just to be tolerated. When I received the email about the Dufour Fellowship, I didn't tell anyone, not at first. I read it under my covers in the glow of my phone screen, breath held like it might vanish if I exhaled too hard. I cried that night not from joy, but from the weight of finally being seen by someone outside of this house. For 3 months, I planned everything in secret, gathered documents, saved money from my campus job, consulted travel timelines, and quietly renewed my passport using the expedited service. I left no trail where they could intercept it. I kept the new documents in a false bottom shoebox under my bed inside a tote bag no one ever touched because it looked too plain to matter. That's what I'd become to them, the daughter who didn't need decoration. But even invisible children grow. They learn how to plan. They learn how to read silence. And eventually, they learn that staying quiet isn't strength. It's the training ground for something stronger. I look at that backpack now sitting beside my desk. It's the same one I'll carry when I leave this house in 2 days. The passport is missing, yes, but not the plan. And not the version of myself that built it. Some people learn to speak louder. I learned how to move quietly, but I didn't forget how to keep receipts. I move through the house slowly, trying not to look like I'm searching, even though that's exactly what I'm doing. The problem with this kind of betrayal is that it doesn't leave fingerprints. It slips between the cracks of casual conversation cloaked in concern and folded hands. I check the upstairs linen closet knowing full well the passport wouldn't end up between spare pillowcases. But at this point, I need to exhaust every possibility that isn't deliberate sabotage just to keep myself steady. Downstairs, the smell of cinnamon and laundry lingers. My mother is in the kitchen humming along with the radio, stirring something on the stove like it's any other Saturday morning. I hover in the hallway, then step in, keeping my voice light. "Hey, have you seen a small Navy folder? I had it on my desk last night. My documents were inside." She pauses for a second, then resumes stirring. "You probably just misplaced it. You've always been scatterbrained when you're under pressure." The way she says it sounds like memory, not insult, like she's helping me remember something about myself I've forgotten. I checked everywhere, I say softer this time. It's important. My passport was inside. She finally looks up. "Delaney, you've been running around nonstop this week. I bet it'll turn up right where you least expect it." Her smile is gentle, like she's tucking a blanket around me instead of pulling a rug out from under my feet. I nod once, not trusting myself to speak. In this house, doubt is a fog they like to spread early before you even realize you're walking through it. As I turn to leave, I catch a glimpse of the photo collage on the far wall. Kelsey's graduation. Kelsey at prom, Kelsey at the State Leadership Summit. I'm not in a single frame. Even now, my absence has become part of the home's aesthetic. I find my dad in the garage, arms folded, watching water drain from the car as he hoses it down. I lean against the doorway, posture casual, tone practiced. Hey, did you happen to move a folder from my room? It had my passport and travel forms. He glances over. Nope, but maybe this is a sign, huh? He raises his eyebrows like that's a reasonable thing to suggest. Not every opportunity is the right one. Sometimes God's trying to tell you to slow down. It's not an opportunity, I say quietly. It's a commitment I've already accepted. He shrugs, shaking the hose a little. Still, Paris is far. These programs sound exciting on paper, but they're not always what they promise. You'd be surprised how many people come back worse off. I nod again, feeling the old ache in my jaw where I press my teeth together. Back inside, I head upstairs and stop in the hallway just outside Kelsey's room. Her door is cracked open, light spilling across the floor in a neat strip. I don't knock this time. She's sitting at her vanity applying lip gloss, phone propped up beside her as she FaceTimes one of her friends. She turns as I enter like she's been expecting me. Any luck, she asks sweetly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. No, I say. She smiles just a little. Maybe it's God's will, she says, echoing Our Father almost word for word. Not everyone's meant to travel the world. I stand there in the doorway, letting her see that I see her. I never said I was running away. I worked for this. Oh, I know, she says, tilting her head. It's just, some people don't handle pressure well. You're so intense sometimes, Dell. It worries Mom. I remember the prom dress. The one I spent weeks saving for, selecting the color that matched the dance theme, triple-checking the measurements. It arrived the week of the event in a size clearly marked for a toddler. My mom had chuckled and said, "You probably hit the wrong button." Kelsey was the only one who knew where I ordered it from. That same week, she offered to help track the shipping email because you looked so tired. I remember my college essay drafted and polished over 3 nights in 10th grade. It disappeared off my flash drive the day before the deadline. My mother said files get corrupted all the time. Kelsey suggested I learn to use Google Docs. I rewrote it. It wasn't the same. Now I'm here again. Another milestone. Another coincidence. I step away from her doorway back to my room. The fellowship invitation still sits on my desk, perfectly untouched. I run my fingers along the edge of the envelope, then look toward the top corner of the room where the small red light on the security camera usually blinks. It's off. Kelsey said last week that the system was being updated. The footage from last night will be conveniently lost. I grab a roll of black electrical tape from my drawer and cover the lens. Then I pull out the shoebox from under my bed. The fake bottom is still secure. The backup passport issued 3 months ago is safe in its sleeve. The real one, the one they know about, is the one that's gone. I sit back in my chair and let the silence settle. It's not empty. It's full of patterns, the missing files, the misdelivered orders, the accidental erasures. This isn't about a passport. It's about keeping me here within reach, where I can be monitored, redirected, softened. Downstairs, I hear laughter. My mother's voice floats up the stairwell, something about community potluck planning and how Kelsey's hosting the next fundraiser. I can already imagine them gathered in the living room talking about how emotional I've been lately, how maybe the pressure got to me, how maybe I should stay and rest. Maybe they'll pray over it. I glance at the moss green backpack sitting beside my dresser. I bought it when I was 15 for a camping trip we never took because Kelsey came down with a cough. I kept it anyway. It's still clean, still dependable. I reach for my phone and open the encrypted chat I share with Jordan. Backup passport secured, leaving on time. Car at 5 a.m. He replies instantly, "Just say the word." I stare at the words for a while, then type back word. Some families pull you close because they love you. Others pull you close because they fear what happens if you grow too far beyond them. And some sisters don't need to scream to keep you small. They just hide the key and say it was fate. But I've been keeping spares for a long time. The invitation still sits where I left it, folded neatly on the corner of my desk, like a reminder of everything they refuse to acknowledge. I stare at it while my mother calls for me again, her voice sweet and sharp. "Delaney, your father's waiting. Don't keep everyone in suspense." She says it like we're about to share good news. I descend the stairs, slowly gripping the banister, not because I need balance, but because I'm rehearsing restraint. The living room is dim, except for the glow of the dining room chandelier, which hangs directly above the long table where we've eaten 100 meals that looked like family from the outside. My father is seated at the head arms, resting casually on either side of his chair like a judge ready to begin proceedings. Kelsey sits beside him, angled toward my mother, who clutches a napkin in one hand and her silver cross in the other. "Sit, sweetheart," my mother says, gesturing to the chair across from them. "It's already pulled out." I sit without speaking. There's a stillness to the room that feels practiced, a stage set for something that's already been rehearsed without me. "We've been talking." My father begins, his voice low, as if kindness lives in volume. "About Paris. About your scholarship. We're proud. We just want to understand what's going on before you make any irreversible decisions." Kelsey reaches for a pitcher of water, pours herself a glass without asking if anyone else wants one, then sets it down with a soft clink. "We all want the best for you, Dell," she says, voice full of quiet concern. "It's just, you've been distant lately, not telling us things. This trip came out of nowhere." "It didn't," I say calmly. "I've been working on it for months." My mother tilts her head slightly. "Then why keep it secret?" "Because you've taught me what happens when I don't," I answer. She frowns like I've just misunderstood something simple. "We love you. We only want you to succeed, but not at the cost of your well-being." Kelsey leans in slightly. "This whole solo world-traveling thing, it just seems sudden. There are risks, and emotionally, I'm not sure you're ready. You take things so personally." My father clears his throat. "You're not impulsive, Delaney, but this feels reactive. Maybe we should look at other programs, something closer to home." I glance at the invitation still in my hand. The edges are starting to curl. "I'm not asking for permission," I say. There's a pause. My mother folds her napkin, carefully smoothing the crease. "But we are a family. We should be able to speak freely." "You mean I should agree with you?" I say, my voice quiet. "That's what speaking freely means here." The chandelier above us casts its glow on their side of the table. I'm in shadow. My mother touches her necklace fingers, resting gently on the cross. "Sometimes God closes doors, Delaney. That's not rejection, it's redirection." "That's not God," I reply. "That's sabotage." My father's jaw tightens. "Watch your tone." "I am." Kelsey shifts, letting out a small sigh. "You always make things into a confrontation. It's like you want there to be drama. You don't let anyone help you." "Help," I say, laughing once, not because it's funny. "You mean when my files were wiped before the state competition, or when my prom dress showed up in the wrong size, or when my essay disappeared off my drive the night before the deadline?" My mother raises her hand, palm open. "Delaney, those were accidents. You always take things so personally. No one's out to get you." Kelsey's voice is smooth. "Maybe you're just overwhelmed. You carry so much. You don't have to prove anything." I look at each of them. I'm not proving anything. I'm leaving. The room is quiet again. I can hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the slight flicker of the chandelier above. My father speaks slow and deliberate. "We know how hard you've worked. We just don't want you to make a choice you'll regret. Kelsey has found purpose here with the youth group, the community work. Maybe there's something for you, too." "Something smaller," Kelsey says, "but meaningful." "Smaller," I repeat. "That's the word you're looking for." My mother finally exhales. "I don't want this to divide us." "It already has," I reply. "You just didn't notice." Kelsey folds her hands. "Dell, if you walk away from this family, from everything we've built together—" "What have we built?" I interrupt. "You built a version of me you could tolerate, not one you ever celebrated." She stiffens but doesn't respond. My mother reaches forward. "Let's not end the night like this. Maybe we could pray together." I stand. "You've already decided what to believe?" My father speaks again, voice clipped. "This is ungrateful." "No," I say, "this is accurate." I walk to the doorway, pausing for a moment before turning back. "You can keep the story where I'm the dramatic one, the difficult one. That script's been running for years, but I'm done performing in it." My mother's voice follows me up the stairs, soft and weary. "You'll regret this, Delaney. Family is forever." Not always, I think. Sometimes it's just another name for the room they won't let you leave. Back in my room, I sit beside the desk. The tape still covers the security camera. The backpack is already packed. My phone buzzes with a message from Jordan confirming the time and pickup spot. I glance down at the screen, then at the fellowship envelope. They don't understand. They don't have to. I'm not asking anymore. I'm going, not to escape, but to live. The house is silent now, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just paused. Like a scene left hanging in a play I never auditioned for. My parents are asleep or pretending to be. Kelsey's light is off, though I'd bet anything she's lying in bed scrolling through her phone, waiting for signs that I've finally caved. I glance once more at the hallway camera. The small, blinking red light that once flickered has been dark for 3 days. Kelsey claimed the system was under maintenance. I didn't argue. I just reached for the black tape. In my closet behind the loose panel of wood I installed when I was 16 to hide my journals from Kelsey's curiosity sits a small gray pouch. Inside it, the second passport untouched and issued 5 months ago. I slide it out and open it briefly to see my photo, the hologram glinting in the dim light. Everything's in place. The weight of it in my hand is steadier than any promise I've ever received from this house. I pull out my phone and open the encrypted chat with Jordan. Final check, green light. His reply comes within seconds. Car's gassed up. We leave at 4:50. Don't be late. I text back, never am. The clock beside my bed ticks past midnight. I open my laptop and begin drafting an email addressed to the fellowship coordinator. I regret to inform you I will not be able to attend due to personal reasons. I add one more line about hoping to reapply next year. I leave it unsent wide open on the screen like a flag of surrender just visible from the hallway. Then I tilt the monitor slightly toward the door and walk away. The trick isn't just escaping, it's making them believe you've already given up. My backpack is already packed, the old green one from our canceled camping trip. It's lined with false pockets, every seam stitched down with documents, ID copies, boarding passes, and printouts. I tested it 3 times. No one in this house would think to check it. They never did when I was younger. Kelsey once called it ugly and lumpy. That's what made it safe. At 3:45, I change into jeans and a gray hoodie, the one from my first year of college that no one noticed I wore for 2 months straight. I tuck my hair into a beanie and double knot my shoes. I breathe slowly, not out of panic, but control. I've been rehearsing this moment for months, not just the leaving, but the clarity of it. The air in my room feels too still, like it knows something is ending. I walk to the window and watch the fog roll over the backyard. Streetlights glow through the mist like stars underwater. The world looks soft, unfocused, but my steps won't be. At 4:47, I switch my phone to silent, place it in my inside pocket, and slip out of my room. The third stair creaks, so I skip it. Down the hallway, the framed portraits glare at me, Kelsey in her graduation cap, Kelsey at the charity gala, Kelsey smiling with the mayor. There are no frames of me. There never were. In the kitchen, the coffee maker is already programmed to start at 5:00 for my mother's morning prayer group. The scent of grounds and cinnamon sticks already fills the air. I slide past the counter and gently unbolt the back door. It lets out the softest creak, but I freeze anyway, heart pounding in time with the fridge's hum. Then I move. The cold hits me instantly. Fog clings to the porch railing like frost. I cross the backyard in long strides, boots crunching against damp gravel, every muscle tuned to silence. Jordan's car waits across the street, tucked under the shadow of a maple tree, headlights off. The trunk pops open with a quiet thump. "Get in," he says, not loudly, just enough for me to hear. I do. The moment the door shuts, something releases in my chest. The kind of tension you don't realize you're carrying until you're finally out of reach. We drive in silence at first, the tires hissing against wet asphalt. The houses blur past like ghosts I've outgrown. He glances over. "You sure?" I nod. I've never been more sure. He exhales a small, relieved sound. They're going to lose their minds. "They already have," I say, watching the fog smear across the windshield. "They just don't know it yet." My phone vibrates once. I ignore it. A minute later, it buzzes again. I slide it out and check the notifications. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, 1 from Kelsey. I don't open the messages. I don't need to. Jordan adjusts the heater, the air warming our hands as the highway signs begin to appear. I parked around the corner for a reason, he says, in case anyone was watching. They were, I reply. They always are, but never for the right reasons. The highway opens ahead of us. I lean back in my seat, the green backpack at my feet, and look out at the faint blue glow starting to rise in the east. For the first time in years, I'm not worried about what they'll say or how they'll spin this. They can tell the story however they want about the ungrateful daughter, the impulsive traveler, the one who turned her back on family. That's not my story. Mine is quieter. It's made of documents, tickets, timestamps, and steady plans. It's built on the knowledge that when someone keeps hiding your keys, you learn to make spares and memorize exits. We pull into the airport access road just after 5:15. Jordan eases the car to a stop in the drop-off lane, hazards blinking. He doesn't say anything as I open the door. He just watches me like he always has, not trying to change my mind, not trying to hold me back. I sling the backpack over one shoulder and grip the handle of my small carry-on. The morning air is cold enough to bite, but I don't flinch. My breath fogs in front of me, but inside I'm clear. I turn back once. Thank you, I say. Jordan just nods, go. And I do, not in anger, not in fear, just forward. The doors slide open ahead of me. The airport is quiet, half awake, filled with the soft buzz of announcements and rolling wheels. I step inside. For the first time, I'm not running from them. I'm walking toward something they never thought I'd reach. Myself. I sit in the quiet of the boarding gate lounge, my backpack under the seat, and my phone resting in my hand. The light from the glass walls pours over the terminal, pale and slow, as if even the sun is trying not to disturb anything. Around me, travelers sip coffee, scroll, absently tap shoes against tile. I look out at the tarmac, then down at the Paris boarding pass tucked neatly into my jacket pocket. It's time. I open my phone and pull up the chat I created 3 days ago. Family clarity for when it's needed. Only a handful of people are in it. My parents, Kelsey, 2 cousins, and our aunt from Connecticut who always tries to stay neutral. I attach the first file, a silent clip, clear as daylight taken from the motion sensor camera Kelsey didn't know I'd hidden behind the dresser 3 months ago. She's standing in my room, barefoot, moving quickly, but not nervously. She lifts the Navy folder from my desk, opens it, flips through it until she finds the passport. She pauses just long enough to look at the page with my photo, then slips it into the front pocket of her cardigan. I watch her glance toward the hallway, then place the folder back with surgical precision. I caption the video with a single line. This wasn't an accident. Then I add a second clip, older, from a garage camera that my father insisted we keep for safety. Kelsey is crouched beside a white laundry bin, pouring bleach onto a dress carefully laid across the floor. The turquoise fabric darkens and crumples. She uses gloves. Even then, she was practiced. The third clip is grainier, pulled from a screen recording of a restored hard drive. She's at my laptop inserting a USB, opening files, deleting a folder marked Thesis Draft Final. She closes the screen and walks out. I upload all 3 with timestamps and file titles. Then I add one last message: I've been gone for 5 hours. I'm safe. Don't call. It's not revenge. It's not rage. It's correction. The moment I hit send, I feel no rush. Just a quiet shift. Like sliding the final puzzle piece into place, not because you needed the picture, but because it deserved to be finished. I wait. 2 minutes pass. Then one message from my father, Delaney. This is serious. Where are you? Another follows from my mother. Please come home. We need to talk about this as a family. Then Kelsey. You don't understand what you've just done. I don't open any of them. Instead, I leave the chat window open, then move it to archive. The phone vibrates again. 10 missed calls, 3 voicemails, one from Dad, one from Mom, and one from a blocked number that's definitely Kelsey using someone else's phone. I play none of them. I just sit there watching the screen dim as the notifications keep coming. It's not silence that settles over me, it's distance. Next, I upload the same video to a private cloud link and send it to my fellowship advisor in Paris, along with a message that reads, in case questions ever arise about my records, this is for context. I don't explain more than that. I don't need to. The final thing I do is post the first video publicly, not on a main feed, but as a story that vanishes in 24 hours. Just enough time for the people in our town to see. People who've heard my mother talk about Kelsey's leadership gifts and my supposed rebellious streak. People who praised her for being so composed while I was told I was intense, too ambitious, too distant. The caption under the video is quiet. May those who preach virtue take a look at the stains on their hands. I close the app. I do not check the views. The gate agent calls boarding for Group 2. I rise, collect my bag, and walk calmly to the line. My passport, the real one, the one no one knew about, is already in hand. As I move forward, my phone buzzes again. This time, it's a single message from Kelsey. It says, "You've always been jealous. You think this is strength, but you're going to regret it." I read it once. Then delete the thread. Jealousy is not what I've carried all these years. What I've carried is evidence. Proof that silence is not the absence of noise, but the weight of unspoken truth. The scanner beeps as my ticket is accepted. I step onto the jet bridge. For a moment, I remember the small framed picture in our hallway, the one of Kelsey lighting her confirmation candle the way my mother always used to say she glowed with grace. I remember standing just outside the frame, cropped by the edge, holding the matches no one mentioned. But I don't hold it long. That's the thing about truth, it doesn't need to be clung to. It just needs to be seen. Inside the plane, I take my window seat. The airport lights cast long reflections across the runway. My reflection stares back from the dark window, older than I remembered, steadier than I've ever been. I send one last message to Jordan. "All done." He replies, "Took them long enough to see it." I smile barely. Not because I won, but because I don't need to. They can scramble. They can explain. They can rewrite and spin and weep about how they never meant harm. But I don't owe them a reply. Some truths don't need to echo. They just need to land, and mine just did. The light in Paris feels different, less harsh, more curious. It spills through the dormitory windows each morning like an invitation, not a warning. I wake slowly now, not to the sound of someone calling me from the stairs or knocking on my door with a question already shaped like judgment, but to my own rhythm. The small room they've assigned me overlooks a narrow courtyard filled with ivy and stone benches. I've left the window cracked open since I arrived. Even the chill feels welcome. I hang my ID badge on a hook by the desk each evening, its thin plastic weight a quiet confirmation I belong here. The first time I clipped it to my jacket, I had to steady my hands. Delaney Brooks Global Policy Fellow printed in firm serif beneath the crest of the institute. No mention of lineage. No hint of who raised me, who doubted me, who tried to write my story for me. Orientation week moves fast. We're assigned advisors, research mentors, and project tracks. I'm placed in the International Rights and Social Movements cohort, the one I'd quietly hoped for. On the first day, our program director asks each of us to prepare a short presentation introducing our perspective, how we understand power, and how our experiences shape what we'll contribute. It's meant to be informal, no slides, just 5 minutes of voice. I spend 2 days refining my words, walking the streets near the Seine with my notebook open, editing under the shadow of ancient cathedrals. I never write down the details of what happened back home. I don't need to. That story's been told. What I carry now isn't proof of harm, but a record of who I've become because of it. When I step onto the low platform in the seminar hall, I don't feel small. My heart beats steadily, not fast. The faces watching me are curious, not skeptical. I begin simply. I grew up in a place where silence was expected, where obedience was mistaken for love. And for a long time, I thought my voice was too sharp to be heard clearly. But I've learned that clarity isn't the opposite of kindness, it's its foundation. There are no interruptions, no sighs, no one looking away. I speak about the way systems family school institutions shape the language we use to describe our worth. I talk about the need to question those who benefit from our silence. I close by saying, I'm not here because I broke away from something. I'm here because I chose to build something different. When I step down, the applause is quiet but full. No one claps like they're impressed. They clap like they understand. It's not a performance. It's participation. Later that evening, I sit by the courtyard fountain with a cup of coffee and the institute binder resting in my lap. My name is engraved on the front cover. It catches the light every time I shift it slightly. I run my fingers over the letters. I don't think about who would have laughed at the idea of me being here. I just let the weight of the binder anchor me. Across the courtyard, I see another fellow Mira from Nairobi, nodding as she reads from her textbook. We talked earlier about her work with displaced youth, about how hard it is to translate local pain into global language. I told her I understood. She believed me. No qualifications, no comparisons. Inside my dorm, my green backpack leans against the desk, the same one I carried through the airport onto the plane into this new place. Its seams are still tight, its zippers still reliable. I emptied the last of the hidden compartments last night. The backup copies of my documents, the old photos, the last remaining fragments of who I had to be to survive back home, they're stored now in a file I keep only for myself. Not locked away. Just done. The days begin to settle into rhythm. Morning lectures, group discussions, research hours tucked into the quiet corners of the old library. I eat lunch outside when the weather allows, often with Mira or Mateo, a fellow from Uruguay with a deep voice and sharper instincts. We don't talk about our families. We talk about future policies, about grassroots leadership, about movements that begin when someone dares to speak differently. One evening, the program director asks me to join a panel for prospective applicants. It's a short session, mostly Q&A, and I'm surprised by how quickly I say yes. A year ago, the idea of speaking to strangers about belonging would have terrified me. Now it feels like offering directions from a path I've already walked. When the session ends, a girl with nervous eyes approaches me. She tells me she's from Toronto, that she almost didn't apply, that her parents told her international work was for people with money and names. I smile gently. Apply anyway, I say. Names can be rewritten. I return to my room that night and sit by the window, letting the city hum beneath me. I scroll through old photos on my phone, not of family gatherings or holidays, but of papers I once submitted, speeches I drafted, certificates I earned. Proof that I always had something worth saying. The only thing that changed is who got to hear it. The notifications from home have stopped. After the video, the silence settled like dust. I haven't blocked their numbers. I just don't open the messages. They aren't urgent, not anymore. There's a peace in that boundary. Not because I've cut them off, but because I no longer need them to understand. They built a version of me that made sense to them. Now I live in one that makes sense to me. The next morning, I clip my badge to my coat and head out. The sidewalks are wet with rain, the sky muted. I walk slowly, breathing in the city, the sound of foreign languages mixing with the tap of shoes and the occasional bell from a passing tram. For the first time, I don't feel like I'm proving something. I'm just living. And that I've come to realize is the loudest kind of freedom. The auditorium is warm with quiet anticipation. Rows of chairs face the stage, their occupants shuffling programs and whispering softly. I stand just off to the side, holding my speech in one hand and pressing the edge of the paper to calm my nerves. It's not stage fright exactly. It's the weight of understanding what this moment means, not just for me, but for every girl who has ever wondered if her voice was too small to matter. It's been 7 months since I boarded that plane. 7 months since I sat in a terminal watching texts pile up like smoke signals from a fire I no longer needed to put out. Since then, everything has changed, but the strangest part is how quietly it happened. Not with fanfare or bright lights, but in morning routines, subway rides, shared coffee tables, and the gentle certainty that comes from no longer needing anyone's permission to exist. When my story spread first quietly among peers, then louder across networks, it found others. I never shared every detail, but the pieces I released, the clips and the context, struck a nerve. Emails trickled in. Then they poured. Not from people asking for more drama, but from strangers who said they finally felt seen. College students, high schoolers, a woman in her 40s who said her parents still reminded her how little she'd done right. A young man who said he stayed invisible just to survive his family's standards. I started replying one message at a time. Then I created a space where we could gather an initiative called Reclaim, focused on helping overlooked youth document their paths, apply for programs, build portfolios, and write the personal statements no one else would ever read. The name came to me one morning on the metro, staring down at the ticket I'd folded into my notebook as a reminder of the day I left. Reclaim what was always yours, your truth, your path. Now I'm here in Brussels, standing behind a curtain at the Global Leadership Forum, preparing to speak on a panel called Voice and Visibility Making Space in Silencing Systems. The woman before me is wrapping up. Her words are strong, clear-rooted in data. Mine will be different, more personal, not weaker, just a different kind of strength. A stagehand gives me the signal. I step forward, crossing to the podium where a small plaque reads, Delaney Brooks, Founder Reclaim. I place my speech on the surface and look out at the audience. I don't clear my throat or tap the mic, I just begin. I used to think silence was survival, that if I could just do everything right, keep my head down, stay quiet, then the room would stay calm. But silence isn't peace, it's a weight. And the longer you carry it, the more it reshapes your voice until even your own reflection feels like someone else's story. No one moves, not a cough, not a shuffle. I continue. For years, I mistook stillness for strength. I built a resume of invisible work, achievements no one pinned to the fridge, essays praised by professors, ignored by the people who raised me. Until one day, I stopped asking to be seen and started documenting my own light. I speak for 9 minutes. I never mention Kelsey. I don't have to. The story isn't about her anymore, or about what they took. It's about what I reclaimed. Afterward, a young girl waits at the end of the hall. She hands me a folded note and walks away before I can ask her name. I unfold it later in my hotel room. It reads, They told me to be grateful for what I was given. Thank you for showing me it's okay to build what I need. I tuck the note into my notebook, the same one that used to hold passwords, backup plans, and escape routes. Now it's filled with workshop outlines, names of organizations we're partnering with, lists of students to follow up with, and pages of handwritten quotes I pull from the messages we receive. On the first page, still taped to the inner cover, is my Paris metro ticket. It's worn now, the corners curling, but I keep it as a compass. Last week, I received a letter from home, handwritten. The envelope was unfamiliar, but the handwriting was my mother's, neater than I remember, the loops tight. I waited 2 days before opening it. Inside, the note was short. I didn't understand. Maybe I still don't. But that's no longer a reason to keep you in a box. I hope one day we can speak plainly without roles. I read it once, then placed it in the drawer with the note from the girl. I felt no bitterness, no rush to reply. Just a soft recognition that change, when it comes, doesn't always arrive in the shape we expected. Kelsey hasn't written. That silence, too, speaks clearly. She's still holding the version of me that made her feel big. I've let go of the version of her I used to try to please. We're even now in our own ways. The next morning, I lead a small group session at the forum for first-time attendees. There's a girl from Turkey, another from Brazil, a quiet boy from Dublin who barely speaks at first. We sit in a circle on low cushions, and I ask them to introduce themselves not by name, but by what they know to be true, even if no one else has ever said it out loud. One says, I know I'm not the disappointment they pretend I am. Another says, I know my fear has nothing to do with my potential. I write both down. I'll use them in next week's newsletter. We call it Unforgotten Voices. Before I leave Brussels, I stop by a bookstore and buy 3 more black notebooks. I fill the first page of each with a message to someone I haven't met yet. You're not too much. You're not invisible. You're just waiting for the room that hears you fully. I leave one behind in the airport cafe. I give one to a woman on the panel. I keep the last one for myself. Legacy, I've learned, isn't what you leave behind when you're done. It's what you plant while you're still growing. And sometimes the loudest legacy comes from the girl they once tried to ground, who now walks so far forward they can't even touch her name. Delaney's story is a quiet testament to the strength it takes to walk away, not in anger, but in truth. From a home that demanded silence, she chose clarity. From a family that overlooked her, she chose to see herself. Her journey reminds us that self-worth is not granted by others. It is reclaimed piece by piece through our actions, our voice, and the boundaries we protect. Sometimes the most powerful change comes not with noise, but with calm resolve. You do not have to be loud to be heard. You do not have to be chosen to belong. If this story spoke to you, we invite you to leave a comment or share your thoughts. And if you want more stories about strength, family, and the courage to step into your own light, make sure to subscribe and stay with us. Your story matters too.